Let's go to our Lavender study guide and begin with our opening paragraph. It says, "The United States is unquestionably the most powerful nation on earth today. More than this, it is the most powerful nation that has ever existed in the history of the human experience. This political, economic, and military potency has caused many to inquire what role, if any, the United States would play in Bible prophecy. This is precisely the question we will seek to answer in this lesson." And so our presentation is entitled, "Discover the United States' Amazing Role in Bible Prophecy." And as we've already said before, in the future, the final issue of loyalty will center around what, everyone? Center around the issue of worship. So let's look right there in our study guide. Some of this is review from last night's material. It says, worship or what? Worship or else. The word cause. And let's go to Revelation chapter 13 for this. This is actually how we began last night's presentation, but let's just go back for just a little bit of review as we prepare to understand the United States' amazing role in Bible prophecy. I'm in Revelation chapter 13, and we'll begin in verse 11. Revelation chapter 13 and verse 11. When you're there, say amen. Amen. John says, "Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spoke like a dragon. And he exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence, and," what's the next word? "Causes the earth and those who dwell in it to," what? "Worship." Notice verse 15, down toward the bottom it says, "And cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed." First part of verse 16. "And causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or in their foreheads." And so this word cause is an important word here in Revelation chapter 13. It occurs 3 times. How many times, everyone? 3 times. So that's what you'd write right there. And the word cause means to force. In this context, the word cause means to force. Every time the word cause is used there in Revelation chapter 13, you could just substitute the word force. And he forces them to worship. And he forces them to worship. He compels them or causes them to worship. In context, it's clearly against their will. It goes on to say, we might ask the question, does God ever force people to worship Him, yes or no? Absolutely not. We've given you 2 texts there, Matthew chapter 11 and Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 3. Both of those texts and a host of others, literally scores of others, could be cited from both the Old and the New Testaments, in which God invites us and draws us and asks us to worship Him, but never ever forces us. If that makes sense, say amen. So we go on. God urges, invites, encourages, woos, and draws us to worship Him, but He never forces us to. Forced worship, like forced what? Love, is a contradiction in terms and is surely rooted in Satan's perverse and insatiable desire for worship. And yet that's exactly what we see there in Revelation chapter 13, is that this power would seek to force, to cause, to compel worship. Forced love has a very ugly word attached to it. We call that word rape. We don't believe that love can be forced. In fact, I've given the illustration, I think, in this room before. If I held a gun at you like this and I said, I want you to stand up, you would stand up. If I held that same gun at you and said, I want you to turn around, you would turn around. If I said, I want you to stand on your head, you would do your best to stand on your head. And I said, I want you to bark like a dog, you'd bark, 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 if you really thought I was going to do you harm. But if I pointed that very same gun at you and I said, love me with all your heart, could you do it, yes or no? Love cannot be forced. Say amen if that makes sense. Worship is nothing more and nothing less than the extension of our love to God. Jesus said in John chapter 14, verse 15, if you love me, keep my commandments. And if love cannot be forced, worship, true worship, cannot be forced. Can you say amen to that? So now we're to the mark of the beast there, the second subheading in your study guide. It says the mark of the beast, let's say it all together, is the mark of the beast. And that's the point. You've got it. It's not the mark of the beast. One word. It's the mark of the beast. That is, it is the beast's mark of authority. We have identified from the Bible the beast as none other than the Roman church state. Incidentally, some of you have said, wow, that's so amazing. I've never seen that before. That's so cutting edge. You must be on the cutting edge of what's happening in Revelation, David. Absolutely not. Look at the rest of this. It says, this identification is consistent with essentially every one of the Protestant reformers. Tell me if these names mean anything to you. From Martin Luther and John Wesley to William Tyndale and John Calvin. Do those names mean anything to anyone in this room? Okay? Every one of those people believed what I've been teaching you about the identity of the beast of Revelation 13 and the little horn of Daniel 7 and 8. Every one of them. This is not something new. As a matter of fact, this is something old. It's something what, everyone? Old. So don't think that I invented this. Hardly, hardly, hardly. Now, it doesn't matter. Just because somebody taught it in the past doesn't mean it's true. Can someone say amen? In other words, we don't say, well, if it was taught in the past, if it was good enough for them, it was good enough for us. What we say is it based on what the Bible teaches? Can you say amen? And in this case, they were right in their identification. Now, I know that there are many people who are waiting for some antichrist figure, a single man to appear at the end of time amidst 7 years of tribulation who's going to be some kind of incarnate satanic figure. Beloved, that is not the antichrist presented in the Bible. That might be an antichrist presented in some fictitious action series called Left Behind, but that is not the antichrist figure depicted in the Bible. At least that is not what historic Christianity has taught, and it's also not what the Bible teaches. Let's continue on here. It says, the mark of the beast then would be the mark of the Roman church state. So we identify who the beast is, and then we ask very simply, what is the beast's mark? If the beast is the Roman church state, then we ask a very simple question, what is her mark of authority? And we looked at this last night. This is from C.F. Thomas, a letter dated October 20th, 1895. Other sources could be given, incidentally, but this one is so clear. It says, of course, the church claims that the change, that is the change from the biblical Sabbath to Sunday, the pagan Sunday, was her act, and the act is a what? Mark of her ecclesiastical power, and what's that word? Authority in religious matters. And so we simply identify the beast, and then we say, hey, what's your mark? And they say, our mark, our proof that we can change religious dogmas and teachings and laws is that we change the biblical day of worship, one of the 10 commandments written with the finger of God on tables of stone and was placed in the ark. We can change it. That's the claim. That's the claim that's being made there. So notice there, bottom of the first page, it says, last lesson we learned that the mark of the Roman Church state's authority in religious matters is found in her presumptuous claim to have changed the Christian day of worship from Sabbath to what, everyone? Sunday. This is her amazing claim. This is her claim, and it is an amazing one indeed. Well, where did we get this idea from that this change would be introduced? We saw it as one of the identifying characteristics of the Antichrist in Daniel chapter 7, verse 25. See if you remember it, where it says that he would think to change times, and who remembers? Laws. That he would be so presumptuous, he would actually think he could change the very times and the very laws, not of Sterling Heights, but of God. Now, is that an amazing claim, everyone? Yes or no? Absolutely. You're right there at the bottom of the first page. Remember Daniel 7:25, which says, this anti-Christian power will think to change the very times and laws of God. Have they attempted to do this? The answer of history is yes. They have sought to transfer the holiness and solemnity of the seventh-day Sabbath to the first day of the week. There is no what kind of authority for this? Biblical authority or mandate for this change. We've already been over that. If you're new tonight, that's review. In fact, all of this so far is review. The church has done it out of her own sense of authority. She has placed convenience and tradition above the what, everyone? The Bible. The Roman church state has historically made this claim and continues to make this claim even today. She claims that this change proves her sovereignty and authority in religious matters. It is a mark of her authority. It is a mark, an identifying mark of the beast and its usurped ecclesiastical power.